but it's in pretty good shape now. And so are some of the folks who went to school there.
Leesville is one of those places that used to be a lot busier than it is now. It had the usual cotton gins and dry goods stores and a barber shop, and the doctor had a drugstore. It hasn't always had a cafe, but it was a thriving trade and supply center for a while in the late 1800s. The settlement was initially known as Capote, a name taken from some nearby sand hills that the Spaniards called Capote Hills. It was called Leesburg for a long time, but that had to be changed when the citizens petitioned for a post office. Green DeWitt's colonists started moving into this area in the mid-1820s, but real settlement didn't begin until just before the Civil War. And Leesville today is not where it was to start out with. A big flood in 1936 almost wiped Leesville off the map. More than 20 inches of rain fell in a few hours the last night in June. A rampaging O'Neill Creek claimed 5 lives and demolished most of the town.
We lived out here in the country a ways, and we was close to a creek, and the water got up, and everywhere out there, everywhere, and here in town too. And the only place we had to get was up in a mesquite tree. And the house went off the blocks and floated off the blocks, and we went back in it once, and then it started raining again, just a downpour, cloudburst. And we had to go back to the tree. But we all got out alive.
There's not a lot left on the old site. Most people moved up the hill a little.
I'll cut this up.
Dempsey and Annie Mae Simmons run a little cafe and store on the highway. Annie Mae grew up here, and Dempsey was pastor of the Leesville Baptist Church on 2 different occasions. They came back to Leesville to stay in the late 70s, and Dempsey was the church's pastor until March of '84. He still does weddings and funerals and special services now and then, and he and Annie Mae run the cafe. Both are artists, and they even operated this place as an art and gift shop for a while. Dempsey did the sketch of Leesville's Little Red Schoolhouse for the booklet commemorating the dedication of its historical marker in 1982. The little school, built in 1868 or 69 and restored in 1979 and 80, shares space on the hillside with the Baptist Church and the Methodist Church and the Leesville Cemetery. A 1-story wooden building was added to the west end of the brick school in 1899. A 2nd story was added to that in 1902. That was sold off when the community built a new school across the creek in 1918. The Little Red Schoolhouse is the only one that has regained its former glory. It's time to call the roll. Beatrice Martin, born January 11, 1892, started a school here in 1899. Pauline Ivy was 7 years old when she started a school here in 1914. Bobby Bradford O'Neill started that same year, and her brother Clarence went to school here too. Marvin C. Ritchie, born 1903, was here in 1909. Beulah Pullen McGee, born in 96, walked into the school for the first time in '04. And Dono Sefji.
I never will forget it. Rode horseback the first year, and then we went in the buggy the rest of the time.
I can remember the building and remember the teacher, but you know, I don't remember the names of any of my classmates. I was sent out for chewing gum at one time, I know that. But I stuck it on the side of the wall, thought I'd get it later. Those days we had to save it.
If he tried, we'll beat you on the back if you just shoot gum.
What was your teacher?
Miss McCord was that
Miss McCord. Yeah, that's my teacher,
Did you
Miss
go to Miss
McCord.
McCord?
These former pupils have some fond memories of the Little Red Schoolhouse, but they're not overly sentimental about it.
I guess we thought it was great. It was the only one in the country. I know I had to come about 7 miles in an open-top buggy. Miss McCord was my teacher then, and frequently she would have to leave the room, and she asked my best friend, Ferris Stewart, to take the tablet and pencil and mark down who was bad while she was gone. And she got me, Bobby. So when Miss McCord came back, she said, Bobby, come up here. So I came up the front. She was sitting right over there. And she pulled my hand back like this, and she had a foot ruler. And she she just hit me in the hand 12 times. I guess it was one for each inch, I don't know.
She hit me too for talking, you know, when you talk, you couldn't even talk. She hit me, she had a word about that.
Times could be tough for the students, but they weren't easy for the teachers either. The early teachers here may have been required to fill the lamps and clean the chimneys and bring a bucket of water and a scuttle of coal. The male teachers could take off one evening a week for courting purposes. Two, if they went to church regularly. Marriage for female teachers was forbidden. Leesville's population swells a couple of times a year. Once for the May Day homecoming, the first Sunday in May. That's a celebration that's been going on since the late 1800s. And then there's the Leesville Country Fair, the third Saturday in October. The bell's beside the Baptist church now, but old returning classmates can pretend that school bells are ringing once again.